Hello and welcome to X Witness a Week. I am your host, Jonathan. I hope you are doing well. So this time around, I'm going to talk about the October broadcast for JW Broadcasting. I'm a little late to get to it, but I had stuff going on this month. But I wanted to get something out to you folks. So with that, let us begin.
It's a pleasure to welcome you to JW Broadcasting. What can we look forward to in this month's program? In the series Iron Sharpens Iron, we'll join an experienced circuit overseer for some field-tested suggestions on how we can use questions to start and continue good conversations in the ministry. Day after day, our young people are tested to compromise their integrity. We'll meet Corey and Cameron, two young people who talk frankly about the pressure they faced in high school to have sex. How did they resist temptation and stand their ground? Do you find the idea of conducting a Bible study intimidating? In a new dramatization, Jade conducts her first Bible study and learns what it takes to be an effective teacher. This is the October 2022 edition of JW Broadcasting. For over 100 years, Jehovah's organization has been producing books to help us teach people Bible truths. Do you remember when some of these study books were released? This Means Everlasting Life was released in 1950. The Truth That Leads to Eternal Life in 1968. You Can Live Forever in Paradise on Earth in 1982. And Knowledge That Leads to Everlasting Life in 1995. What did those titles have in common?
Hey, you know what those titles have in common? They're all considered old light now, and actually would be considered apostate material. So they bring in something new, and then the old is out. Because you know how it works. With a flashlight, you add new light to a flashlight, and the other one becomes useless, and you need to turn it off. You can't have old light with new light.
They show that it's possible for a person to learn what Jehovah requires to live forever. And that's why we keep searching for people who are rightly disposed for everlasting life and who are willing to study the Bible with us. All of those books and several more that we published since then have been instrumental in helping people become believers in our wonderful hope for the future. In 2021, we added one more book to the list entitled Enjoy Life Forever, an Interactive Bible Course. This title adds another element, that it's possible not only to gain everlasting life, but also to learn how to enjoy life, even now. The title is taken from Psalm 22:26, which says, "Those seeking Jehovah will praise him. May you enjoy life forever." This newest study publication is very different from all the others that we've produced. In this broadcast, we want to explain what went on behind the scenes to produce Enjoy Life Forever. Under the direction of the governing body, hundreds of Bethelites around the world worked very hard to make it possible for us to have this innovative study tool. However, they'll be quick to say that all credit for this goes to Jehovah. That's why we can say, just as the prophet Isaiah said in ancient times, of our great God, O Jehovah, everything we have done, you have accomplished for us. We know that any success we enjoy is because of Jehovah's direction and blessing. And so, the theme of this presentation is, see what Jehovah has done for us. The faithful and discreet slave has always taken very seriously Jesus' command recorded at Matthew 28:19. Go and make disciples of people of all the nations, baptizing them. And that's what our Bible study activity aims to accomplish. For decades, our method of conducting studies was to study printed material paragraph by paragraph. When answering the questions for the paragraph, some students would often just repeat what was stated in the book. However, it was hard to know whether the truth was really touching their heart. With Enjoy Life Forever, we're using a different method of teaching that generates candid expressions by the students in their own words. This is just what the governing body feels is needed to bring new ones to dedication and baptism during these urgent last days.
So it's interesting how this brother is talking about how for years we would study, by reading the paragraph and they'd answer the question, which would be something from the paragraph. But we needed to try something new. So they want people to speak what's, on their mind and that sort of thing. That method of study is what they do at the meetings. If you, as a Jehovah's Witness, were to attend the Watchtower study and you just started asking questions or just spouting off things that are not from the paragraph, you might actually get a talking to. If you stray far from the material, you'll definitely get a talking to. If you just sort of, go off on your own path a little bit, but it's still related to the material they're covering, well, probably you'll be okay. But, you might get a talking to. That's the way they've always taught. They're not going to encourage people to come up with their own thoughts once they're a witness. Once you're a witness, you better just toe the line and just repeat after me in the paragraphs when it comes to the studies. So interesting.
If you've begun conducting Bible studies with Enjoy Life Forever, you can appreciate how it's adjusting our Bible study work. Here's what some longtime pioneers have said after covering just one lesson on their studies. This was the most beautiful spiritual conversation I've ever had with a student. My student revealed things she had never told me before. I felt as if I was hearing her heart for the first time. It truly reaches the heart and motivates students to action. And one brother wrote, I'm so excited about this new Bible course that I am begging Jehovah to hear my prayers to be able to conduct progressive studies. It was early in 2019 when the writing committee took on the amazing project to produce a new Bible study tool. They assembled a team of writers, designers, and consultants to investigate whether we could improve the publications that we were then using. At the very first discussion session, everyone was encouraged to pray often about the task at hand, to pray when thinking about it, when brainstorming with others, and when working on it, and to respond to the influence of Holy Spirit. Why pray so much? Proverbs 16, verse 3 gives the answer. Commit to Jehovah whatever you do, and your plans will succeed. The team was also encouraged to think outside the box, which means to think outside or beyond the way things have always been done in the past. Times have changed. People have changed. And the way that many prefer to be taught has changed. These days, they respond better to multimedia that engages them and holds their attention. The team was shown a puzzle that illustrates what it means to think outside the box, the 9 dots puzzle. The challenge is to connect all 9 dots with just 4 straight lines. Here are a few examples of how some will try to solve the puzzle. Notice that with each attempt, 1 dot is missed. The problem is that our mind tends to build a box around the dots, and that instantly limits what we can imagine. The only way to connect all 9 dots with just 4 straight lines is by going outside the box and thinking differently than we normally would. The point was to show that novel, creative thinking was needed to imagine something other than the traditional way of studying the Bible with people. With Jehovah's Spirit guiding fresh thinking, it would be interesting to see what innovative ideas could be thought of on how to teach the truth to Bible students. And yet it was felt that our brothers and sisters would need to see some familiar features in the new publication. That's why the first part of each lesson is designed similar to the Good News brochure. It features numbered questions, each followed by a paragraph that briefly covers fundamental facts about the topic. Next, the Dig Deeper section, Reasons on the topic, shows how to apply what's learned and discusses what the topic teaches us about Jehovah. It includes features found in the Life and Ministry Meeting Workbook, bulleted discussion points, scriptures to read, videos to play, and viewpoint questions to answer. And like the study articles in the Watchtower, the last part of each lesson includes just 3 review questions.
It was decided that we could cover much less printed material and let the Bible do the teaching.
Well, that's interesting. So if they want the Bible to do more of the teaching and less of the printed material, why do they need the Bible literature in the first place? Why not just use the Bible? Reason being, because if you didn't have that literature at all, people would come to different conclusions than they would than if they studied with it. And that's not going to keep them on the path to becoming Jehovah's Witnesses. So while he's saying that, there's less material and more reliance on the Bible, the reality is they're never going to let go of that. That's what they do. They're a Bible and Tract Society. They're going to make those tracts. They're going to make that literature that's going to lead people in the direction of making more Jehovah's Witnesses.
That we need to draw out the students' feelings with well-worded viewpoint questions and include videos and generous artwork. We must help the student to see Jehovah as a real person and to develop a warm relationship with him, and encourage the student to get into a routine of regular Bible reading, prayer, and meeting attendance. Does Enjoy Life Forever provide what we need to accomplish all of that? It certainly does. The scriptures are the focal point of each lesson, so the student is prompted to find answers in the Bible. The questions draw out the student's feelings about what he's learning. Early in the course, students are helped to appreciate what Jehovah is like, to feel his love for them, and to see how to draw close to him as their friend.
The beautiful artwork and motivating videos have real emotional impact.
Emotional impact. That sounds familiar. Remember the bite model?
This project to produce Enjoy Life Forever required the collaboration of 6 departments at World Headquarters. As directed by the governing body, the writing department researched, wrote, and proofread the text for each lesson. These were then sent to hundreds of brothers and sisters around the world to test them on their Bible studies. The writing department coordinated the work with other departments to keep the project on schedule.
Translation services help to simplify the vocabulary and logic of what was written.
Oh, come on. The vocabulary is simple enough.
What's this word?
Try reading it out loud.
Tahay? Tahi?
It's the, sir. It's the.
Oh, okay.
They identified any English text that would be a problem for translators to render in their local languages. As of right now, Enjoy Life Forever has been approved in upward of 700 languages. The art department designed the book's layout and artwork. Teams in several branches photographed models to help the illustrators create the many beautiful scenes that appear in the book, which contains over 600 images. MEPS programming developed new tools so that the digital version of the book in the JW Library app would look similar to the printed edition. This is the first publication for which both print and digital formats were designed simultaneously. Text processing services composed the text and artwork for both the print and digital formats, transcribed the book into English Braille, and instructed the branches on how to produce the book in their languages. Audio-video services produced several new videos and excerpts of many existing videos from the JW.org website. They also produced unique audio recordings of the book that include various voices and sounds. This was truly a collaborative effort.
But there was a major problem that could have stalled this project. COVID-19.
So if you watch these videos long enough, you come to realize that they like to talk about COVID-19 like they're the only ones that had to deal with it. Like they were able to overcome this adversity and complete the project or, complete the building or move this stuff or whatever through the hardships of COVID-19. It's like, dude, the whole world had to deal with that stuff. So, okay, kudos to you if you're able to do some stuff when it's a little more challenging, but don't make it sound like you have Jehovah's blessing because you were able to do the thing. So I noticed that recently, and even in this broadcast, there's more of this patting themselves in the back for overcoming the pandemic.
When World Headquarters and the branches were locked down, 60% of the project still needed to be completed, and yet the governing body had given it high priority. The following video will give you some idea of how the departments worked together to get their work done despite the challenges they faced during the pandemic. Everything about Enjoy Life Forever is different from any other publication we've produced in the past. And from the start of the project, 2 things were critical: good communication and good documentation. But honestly, time and again, the thing that proved to be the most important was reliance on Jehovah. The writing committee's goal was to create a first-class digital experience that would engage Bible students. The digital design system had to be completely remodeled so that Enjoy Life Forever would look uniform, whether it's viewed in JW Library, on JW.org, or in print. Right from the inception of these projects, the brothers looked for input so that the study material would be easily available in as many languages as possible. And for that reason, a team from translation services worked along with the writers. A publication of this size would usually take about 2 or 3 years to complete, but the writing committee was really interested in getting the Enjoy Life Forever book out there as soon as possible. The Enjoy Life Forever book required an intense amount of collaboration. Right from the beginning, the writing committee got all 6 departments together so we could work unitedly through the production.
Enjoy Life Forever has many elements. Over 250 pages of text, 597 images, 121 videos.
Okay, so you'll forgive me if I'm going to really, really fast forward towards the points that have no real interest. And I'll slow down for the stuff that I want to comment on, okay? Okay. Oh, wow, this is so much better. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. These guys are moving really fast, though. Must be good workers.
COVID-19 hit, effectively halting video production around the world. Due to the pandemic, photo sessions here at headquarters were completely stopped for 4 months.
If you could listen to what a germ sounded like when looking in the microscope, I bet it sounds something like this. Hey, stop looking at me!
Even with the pandemic, the results show me that Jehovah was in control of the project.
With the governing body wholeheartedly embracing the project and everyone on the production team willingly giving their all, we could see clear evidence of Jehovah's backing.
Now that we've seen what Jehovah has wonderfully done for us,
what must we do for him? What must we do?
My guess is free labor and money. Lots of money.
remember, Jesus' command at Matthew 28:19 and 20 applies to all Christians. Regarding that command, note what the article Keep Busy During the Last of the Last Days states in the October 2019 issue of the Watchtower.
Hey, look, it's another one of those segments where the Watchtower is treated like the Bible, like it's all holy and everything. It's just a magazine, people.
As we conduct Bible studies, we have to try our best to make disciples, teaching them to observe all the things Jesus has commanded. We need to help people understand how important it is for them to take their stand for Jehovah and His kingdom. This means trying to motivate people to make the truth their own by applying what they learn, dedicating their life to Jehovah, and getting baptized. Only then will they survive Jehovah's Day.
I dare any active Jehovah's Witnesses to lead with that one at the door. If you're not one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you're not going to survive Jehovah's Day. So you better join. I bet it doesn't go over well.
In most parts of the earth, people are not waiting in line for Bible studies.
Ain't that the truth? Gee, I wonder why.
So we have to be proactive, trying our best to find people with whom we can start and conduct progressive studies, using our interactive Bible course. We want as many right-hearted persons as possible to become Jehovah's willing, loyal witnesses. Here are 7 suggestions you can write down now and try later. They really work. The first and most important is pray for a Bible study. Never underestimate the power of prayer. So be specific in your prayers and keep praying for studies. Work in harmony with your prayers by offering studies at every opportunity, including to your relatives and acquaintances.
You ever notice how much this sounds like an MLM? When you join an MLM, what do they want you to do? They fully expect you to try and recruit or sell to your friends and family and coworkers. That's what they want you to do here. You got your own little private territory.
2. Show people the brochure. Use the intriguing question on the back cover to pique their interest. It asks, is it possible to enjoy life forever? Offer to cover the 3 introductory lessons in the brochure. After that, the person can decide whether to continue with the rest of the Bible course in the book. 3. Try the direct approach. Introduce yourself as a Bible teacher and come right out and ask people whether they would like to learn more about the Bible. Explain that we have a most enjoyable and easy interactive Bible course, and that you have openings in your teaching schedule.
Has anybody out there ever done this? I can just imagine if everywhere you went, you said, "Hi, I'm a Bible teacher. Would you like a Bible study with me? I have an opening in my schedule." That kind of person would just be absolutely insufferable. I can't even imagine that. It's like, come on, turn it off. It's too much.
4. Ask your studies for referrals. You can do this while studying the first paragraph of Lesson 1. It asks, do you think that the Bible can help anyone you know? If your student mentions a friend, a relative, a neighbor, or a workmate, offer to demonstrate the course to that person.
There's them MLL sales tactics again.
5. Approach meeting attenders. Don't assume that interested ones you see at congregation meetings are already studying. Ask them, and if they are not currently studying, offer to get them started. 6. Ask non-witness marriage mates. When was the last time they were offered a Bible study? Even if they had declined an offer in the past, they might be interested now, and they may prefer to study with someone outside their family. And 7. Talk to those who studied before. Did you study with someone years ago in one of our other publications who did not make any progress? Why not contact them? Explain that we have a new interactive Bible course and ask if they'd like to study again.
Okay, so here's the scenario. You go to a Kingdom Hall and suddenly you have 6 people come up to you and they say, "Hey, would you like a study?" That might be a little off-putting, a little weird. Another thing is if you have a marriage mate who is a non-witness, do you really think that your husband or wife is going to be like, "Yeah, okay, I'll study"? I'm pretty sure that they've got that covered themselves. If they really wanted to, they would have asked. They don't need to be asked. Leave them alone. They're okay. And the last one, ask somebody who has studied before. Okay, so they studied and they decided that it wasn't for them for whatever reason. They didn't agree with it or not the right time in their life, whatever. I'm sure that you can ask them again, say, "Hey, we've got this new program. It's full of new information since, we change beliefs like dirty socks. So yeah, try this on for size. Never mind that stuff that we studied the first time. It's no longer applicable. You need to go with this new information. It's the real truth."
This may be just what they need now to act on what they learn. A key principle that applies to the efforts we put forth in the Bible study work is found at Galatians 6, verse 9, which says, "So let us not give up in doing what is fine, for in due time we will reap if we do not tire out." So may we never lose our enthusiasm in making disciples, nor relax our efforts. With Jehovah's rich blessing on our Bible study activity, used to enjoy life forever, we'll be able to say thankfully, "Oh Jehovah, everything we have done, you have accomplished for us." One way we've been trained to become better disciple makers is through the videos. Do you remember when we first met Nita and Jade during the 2020 Always Rejoice convention? That series provided so many valuable lessons about what it takes to be an effective teacher. This month we have another new dramatization. And in this episode, the story has come full circle, with Jade now conducting her first Bible study using Enjoy Life Forever.
I feel like the characters, Nita and Jade, are like almost celebrities now. I feel like there's probably a percentage of witnesses that think they know that they're not real, but they treat them like they are real. So they feel like real people. Like they would see the person who's portraying Jade and think, "It's Jade! Oh, how lovely. She's doing so well in the truth now." Yep, this introduction is cementing this must-see TV sort of feel when it comes to Nita and Jada. Or wait, Nita and Jade.
So, what's your biggest question about life?
Why are people so obsessed with kicking round objects?
Well, there's that, but seriously, anything?
Why do people hate? If we're all God's children, what's the deal?
Good question, and one the Bible definitely answers. But you've a train to catch, so we'll stop there. But is Tuesday still good?
Assuming space-time hasn't collapsed into a singularity, I'm open.
This girl's a real weirdo.
Okay, cool. So on Tuesday, we'll carry on with... Hey!
Clearly, somebody made that cereal box mascot. Looks like Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent hunger at breakfast time.
So, how's the study going?
Brilliant. We're zipping right through the easy stuff. So, what I love about this prophecy is that it was written like 200 years before it actually happened, and every single detail came true. The men in charge just left the gates open. I mean, I would have fired anyone that got drunk and left the city gates open. Anyway, back to the prophecy.
So God is love, but he's gonna kill billions. How's that work?
Well, it'll make sense later.
But for
Here,
now,
Jade
let's just
uses the
focus on what I was
method
talking
of
about
blow
earlier.
off the
What's
question
so nice about this
because
chapter
I don't
is
want to
they
deal with
talk
it
about
now.
prayer. Well,
Also,
it's
it
talking
never
about
really
how
makes sense.
Jehovah helps us with prayer. And so
Oh
it's
my God,
really
does
lovely
she
because
ever
we've
shut up?
created someone that's basically all of this is evidence of the last days. So what would you say are the signs of the last days?
Wars, disasters, rude people. Yeah,
Wars,
Anything
disaster,
else?
and rude people. That's been forever.
no?
Oh my
Okay.
God, you're not even trying!
That's fine. We can just we'll just review it in the next lesson. It's fine. Do you want to just wrap it up now then?
Yeah.
Is everything okay?
This crap is boring and I'm just not feeling it. Later.
I'm gonna go.
All right, bye, Gladys. And she just said one word. I don't know what to do.
Wow, thankfully I've never had a student like that.
Okay, she's really getting a hang of this irony thing, isn't she? But seriously, I really put myself into the study to try and make it live. And I get yes, no, maybe.
Or another insufferable off-topic question.
Maybe let's do a bit of research.
Maybe answer someone's
Need to
genuine
do that.
questions.
I'll put the kettle on.
Thanks. Here we go. October 2020 Watchtower. This box.
Exercise self-control by not talking too much. I guess I do need help.
But look, let the students see that you're excited about Bible truths.
Spot on there.
Make friends in the congregation. Oh, I could, or maybe we could do this. Look for signs that reveal her desire to serve Jehovah.
This lady clearly has no desire to serve Jehovah.
Who's free on Friday?
Sorry, Jade, I'm busy.
Oh,
Sorry, Jade, I can't really do anything. I'm a background character. I'm just here as a third wheel to make it look like you two aren't a thing. So, I'm busy.
Yeah, I'd love to.
okay.
Jade? Jade? A tablet? No? Okay.
Hey.
Hey.
So, a surprise today. My usual lecture has been cancelled in favour of a discussion. And?
Jade, I'm not really the drum roll type. Oh, hey.
Hi, I'm Nita, one of Jade's roommates. And you're...
Gladys.
So, let's start with the question you hit me with last time, which is why do we stay neutral when we see injustice?
I take it you've had your fair share? Me too. Although, not as bad as my mum and dad, from what they tell me.
But how will things ever change if we don't do something about it?
Let's see what the Bible has to say. In Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 23. Could you read that?
I well know, O Jehovah, that man's way does not belong to him. It does not belong to man who is walking even to direct his step. But if that's true, then the future of the human race is looking quite bleak. Does that mean then that there's no hope for us? There's no point carrying on?
Good question.
Very good question.
Jade was excited to conduct a study, but she learned that making disciples takes more than just enthusiasm. It also requires patience and the self-control to talk less and listen more. Nita helped Jade improve her teaching by doing a little research in the October 2020 issue of the Watchtower, which featured 2 study articles on conducting Bible studies. Earlier that same year, the January issue featured another study article entitled, Go Therefore and Make Disciples. That article was filled with suggestions on how to help our students draw closer to Jehovah. Listen to the impact those suggestions have had on 3 regular pioneers in our next video from the series Lessons from the Watchtower.
So these parts seem to be a whole lot of going in circles to where they've got a program and they have this stage scripted situation with Jade, Nita, and this study who clearly seems not interested. And it comes down to, hey, there's these articles in the Watchtower and this other article in the Watchtower. It seems like a lot of production to just say, hey, review these articles.
Our goal as teachers is to help the person to become a disciple of Christ.
I want my student to love Jehovah the same way that I do.
What I most enjoy is conducting Bible studies.
Being able to see a student grow spiritually is a joy that can't be put into words. The Watchtower of January 2020 mentions several things that we need to keep in mind as we conduct a study.
Studying the article, I saw how many changes I needed to make when I conduct a Bible study. It highlighted that besides helping the student to gain knowledge, it's even more important that we help them progress to the point of dedicating their lives to Jehovah and, of course, getting baptized.
But the thing she's forgetting here is that the knowledge is what informs them in order to make that decision. So without all the knowledge, they may be going into something they may regret later because they didn't know.
Even though I read about how we should stop studying with non-progressive Bible studies, I didn't feel comfortable doing it because I was afraid I might make the wrong decision.
Although I was pretty sure that my Bible student wasn't yet married, that is, legally married, she had never told me this directly, and I just didn't feel comfortable talking with her about it.
And that's probably for the best, lady, because really, that's none of your business. What somebody's situation is like that. You can present them information, but don't get into their business.
I had a Bible student who always prepared for and commented well at the study. I kept inviting her to the meeting, but she never went to a single one. And she never attended the memorial. I saw that she still had ties with some aspects of her religion.
The article brought out that in the first few weeks, as soon as the study becomes regular, it's important to start praying with the student. It used to take me a long time to start doing that.
The article helped me because it encouraged me to bring others with me on the study, and also not to be afraid to bring along those who are more experienced.
In the article, it was brought out how important it is not just for us to pray with our students, but also to help them to begin saying their own prayers as well. After that, when the study became regular, I'd pray before and after each session. And I encouraged each of them to also begin praying to Jehovah personally, so praying became a daily habit for them.
A circuit overseer's wife went with me on the study, and she asked my student if she was married. "Yes, I'm married. But are you legally married?" And then she responded, "No."
Again, I couldn't imagine asking somebody that question. It just seems a little too personal. And I don't know where they were in this study, if she had been a study for a long time, but that just seems like that's something she would have to figure out on her own. And circuit overseer's wife should not be asking this question. Again, mind your own business.
So that really opened up an opportunity for me to help the student out with this situation.
The article gave some suggestions about how we need to pay attention to the student's spiritual progress. It really should be consistent. We studied for a long time, a little over a year, and that's when I realized that it was time for me to stop and decide if I should discontinue the study. Then I put into practice the suggestion from the Watchtower of January 2020. I told her, "You really are someone who appreciates God's Word, and you're always regular with your studies. But like we just read about, there's some fruitage in your life that's missing." But she responded, "But I think it's all in Jehovah's time." So I said, "Jehovah has already invited you personally, so it's really up to you now." But she kept saying, "Well, to me, it'll happen in Jehovah's time." Unfortunately, it seemed better to discontinue the study because she showed that she didn't feel the need to make progress.
This article was a present from Jehovah.
It was like everything that was important came all together in just one article.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think you mispronounced the governing body and the writing committee when you said that.
Cool.
We're living in urgent times, so we need to be as efficient as possible. The spiritual progress a person makes, which may have taken 5 years, can take place now.
If you're currently conducting a Bible study, did you see any points you could put into practice? Are you starting each study with prayer and teaching your student how to pray? Are you regularly inviting others to join you on the study? And are you skillfully using questions to find out what's really on your student's mind? The art of using questions is the topic of our next video in the series, Iron Sharpens Iron.
Hola. Hi, I'm Armando. Welcome to Iron Sharpens Iron. We've all been there. We're out in the ministry, trying to start conversations with people. But for many of us, it's not that easy. Just the idea of talking to a stranger can be intimidating.
Hey, guess what, Armando? It's intimidating for the people that you're trying to talk to as well. It's a little weird for people to just come and visit you out of the blue sometimes. So think about that. You're going to make them feel weird.
Personally, I'm not someone who finds it easy to just walk up to a stranger and start a conversation. But with some effort and time, I've learned a few methods that have helped me to overcome my fears. Today, we're going to concentrate on just one of them, using questions to start and maintain a conversation. And perhaps by the time we're done, you'll realize, like I have, that it's not as difficult as it seems.
Hi there. We're asking our neighbors a question, and we'd like to know your opinion. Have you ever asked yourself what we need to do to have a happy family?
No, I'm not married.
Oh, okay. Well...
Okay, 3 things. First, the brother was nervous. When we're nervous, we make the person we're speaking with nervous too. Of course, it's difficult not to be nervous, but if we concentrate too much on how we feel, we can forget that what we want to do is simply start a conversation. There's no pressure. Just keep it casual. Second, yes, the brother did ask a question, but the question was irrelevant to the householder. It's usually better to ask something that will encourage the person to participate in the conversation, but will also help us to discern what interests them. Third, one of the biggest fears we have is, what if my question doesn't connect with them? This can throw us off. We feel like we have nowhere to go. It would have been better to have a flexible approach that would allow us to react according to what the person says. Let's try it again, but this time, let's approach the situation a little differently. In the first few pages of our Bible, there are 20 questions that we can use in the ministry. Why not start familiarizing ourselves with them? We can choose 1 or 2 subjects that we like so that we will be ready when an opportunity arises. Let's see how our brother does this in the next demonstration.
Hi there. We're asking our neighbors a question, and we'd love to know your opinion. What would you say is something that causes you a lot of stress?
Personally, I worry a lot about money and paying all my bills.
Yeah, I think that's the case for many of us.
Yeah, I agree with whatever you just said.
Did you know that the Bible explains something that can help us specifically with that anxiety?
Notice what the scripture says here. You should get investing in cryptocurrency because it'll get you out of a bind and you'll be rich and you won't have that anxiety anymore. See? Specifically.
Really?
In the front of my Bible, there are 20 questions that many of us ask and that the Bible answers. Notice question 16. How can you cope with anxiety? Notice what this scripture says in Proverbs 21:5. The plans of the diligent.
Much better, right? Did you notice that when the person answered, the brother simply opened his Bible to the questions and found a scripture that allowed him to continue the conversation? And he didn't try to hide what he was doing. He showed the person the tool he was using. He felt confident that however the person responded, he would be able to find a useful scripture that would keep the conversation moving. So that went pretty well. But maybe you're thinking, it almost never happens like that for me. Perhaps, in our case, it's more like this.
Hi there. We're asking our neighbors a question, and we'd love to know your opinion. What would you say is something that causes you a lot of stress?
People coming to my door and asking me questions.
I understand. I'm not a fan of that myself. But have you ever wondered why we do this?
Now, at this point, the householder may shut down the conversation completely. And that's fine. We're not trying to pressure anyone into talking. But that second question that the publisher asked, and the fact that he was calm, that he was relaxed, and that he was not taking himself too seriously, all of that can open the door for the conversation to continue. To sum up, remember, first, be calm and relaxed. We're just trying to start a conversation. Smile. Be friendly. Second, ask a question that brings the person into the conversation and allows us to discover what interests them. And third, don't be nervous about where the conversation could lead. With our 20 questions for the ministry, we can be sure that we'll find an appropriate text that will keep the conversation directed towards spiritual matters. This is one of the methods that has helped me, and I hope that it can help you too, as you see for yourself how iron sharpens iron.
Do you sometimes feel like Brother Perez and find that it isn't so easy to walk up to a stranger and start a conversation? Using the questions in the front of our Bible may be just what you need to help get a conversation going. Of course, making disciples takes more than technical teaching skill. First and foremost, we have to love people, regardless of their race, background, or lifestyle.
Even ex-witnesses? I didn't think so.
Jehovah is impartial, and we have to be the same way as we search out deserving ones. That was the topic of a recent morning worship by Brother William Turner. His talk highlights the many ways we need to imitate Jehovah's impartiality, not just in our ministry, but at all times.
Well, today's text comments mention the effect that prejudice had on Jesus' disciples. And as we think about that today and how we are part of an organization that is much more diverse than in the first century, it raises the question, does prejudice still have an impact on God's people today?
Do a little digging, and you will find some articles that were very prejudiced and outright racist. So,
We're very thankful that we love and serve a God who does not tolerate prejudice. The Bible states that quite plainly. Turn with me, please, to the book of Acts. And we note the words of the Apostle Peter in Acts chapter 10. In verse 34, it says, "At this Peter began to speak, and he said, 'Now I truly understand that God is not partial, but in every nation, the man who fears him and does what is right is acceptable to him.'" Now, if you look at the study note, it mentions that the Greek phrase for "is not partial" literally means "is not one who takes faces." And that perfectly describes Jehovah, doesn't it? He does not favor one face, one individual over another because of their race, nationality, social standing, or any other external factors. And that's how you and I strive to be as well. However, we must acknowledge that it is a challenge to be impartial, largely because in today's world, we are surrounded by prejudice. So to answer that question, does prejudice have an impact on God's people today? Indeed it does. We may be victims of it, or we ourselves might hold some prejudice. Interestingly, the Watchtower back in 2013 made this comment. It said, "If we are honest with ourselves, we have to admit that deep down, we all harbor varying degrees of prejudice in one form or another." So if this is something that is a human tendency and we're all plagued with it, at least to some degree, then how do we overcome it? Well, it might be helpful to start with the word itself. As Sister Lighthizer mentioned, the dictionary defines prejudice as a preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. A preconceived opinion. That has to do with how we think and how we feel. thoughts that likely have been shaped by our personal experiences, our upbringing, and our environment. Now, maybe when we think of prejudice, perhaps our minds go to or we focus on racial prejudice, hatred or animosity towards someone. We talked a little bit about that last week. But the Watchtower also mentioned that prejudice can also be formed against another person because of their weight, gender, language, social status, religion, or virtually any perceived difference. So if prejudice starts with our personality, our personal preconceived opinions, then the way to overcome it has to start by elevating our minds to God's way of thinking. Again, if we go back to the Bible, this time to 1 Samuel chapter 16. Notice how Jehovah brings this to light. 1 Samuel chapter 16, and let's recall what happens when Samuel goes to the house of Jesse to appoint one of his sons as king. In verse 6, it says, as they came in and he saw Eliab, he said, surely, here before Jehovah stands his anointed one. But Jehovah said to Samuel, do not pay attention to his appearance and how tall he is, for I have rejected him. Now, if we stop there a moment, did you notice what Samuel did? In this particular instance, he was, as that Greek phrase denoted, a taker of faces, wasn't he? He looked at Eliab, he saw how tall, how handsome he looked. Surely this must be Jehovah's choice. But note how the verse continues. Note the teaching point. For the way man sees is not the way God sees, because mere man sees what appears to the eyes, but Jehovah sees into the heart. That's what matters to Jehovah. What's in our heart, what we are on the inside. And he's looking for those qualities in each of us that reflect his impartiality. Now, how is this of benefit to us, since you and I cannot read hearts? Well, let's go back to the study note. The rest of the study note for Acts 10:34 gives us the answer, because it says, imitating God's impartiality means not making surface judgments, but paying attention to the character and quality of others. Now, perhaps one way we can illustrate this is with the example of a geode. Now, you look at this picture. On its outside surface, a geode looks pretty ordinary and nondescript, no different than any big rock or stone you'd find outside. But if you break it open, quite a different story. Now, when you look inside, you see these beautiful, sparkling crystals of varying colors that are just quite beautiful and really radiant to the eye. Well, what's our point? When we make surface judgments or preconceived opinions about our brothers, often, aren't we looking at them like the outside of that geode? All we see is just the external surface. And isn't it so true? Perhaps if someone is shy, quiet, or reserved, it's so easy to label them, isn't it? We size them up and we quickly come to the conclusion, you know what, there's not much there. They really don't have much to offer. Or it could be that the person is very talkative, loud, extroverted. Same thing. We label them, form an opinion. Could it be in those particular instances that we have become a taker of faces? We've made a judgment purely based on personal opinion or what we feel is acceptable. But to imitate Jehovah's way of thinking, we have to go beyond the surface. We have to focus on the character and the qualities of our brothers. And with some people, that may take time. You know, with the geode, one expert stated, there are many different ways to open a geode, but no matter how you do it, the key is patience, patience, patience. And isn't it true that's the same with our brothers? It takes time and patience to get to know them. Time and patience to understand the way that they think, to show personal interest by asking questions, to work with them in the ministry and to consider their suggestions. But when we do, well, we're rewarded. We begin to see the crystals. We begin to see their inner beauty inside. We discover true depth in our brothers and sisters, and hopefully they do in us as well. Now, going back to Jesus' disciples, while the Bible candidly details a number of accounts showing their human traits and their prejudicial feelings at times, it also highlights how they overcame those feelings. Just look at how much we read and meditate on in the Christian Greek scriptures, and how much those verses and books emphasize love, opening our hearts, loving our brothers, getting along with one another, and widening out. The disciples did not allow any deep-rooted feelings or things from their upbringing or their environment to control them. And you and I can be the same. But it all starts with an honest self-examination. Can I identify any traces of prejudice within me? And if we can, well, it all starts with our thinking, elevating our thinking to Jehovah's way of thinking. Let's avoid surface judgments, being a taker of faces. Let's take the time to get to know our brothers and appreciate their character and qualities, their inner beauty. Jesus told his disciples at Matthew chapter 23, verse 8, all of you are brothers. And what made them brothers? Matthew chapter 12, verse 50, Jesus said, for whoever does the will of my Father, that one is my brother and sister and mother. It's a nice reminder, isn't it? We are all part of a large spiritual family, united by our faith and love for God. And if we see each other that way, that will help us to remain humble and recognize that we have no reason to elevate ourselves above others. Instead, we're going to be filled with so much love and appreciation to be part of this organization as we imitate our impartial God and Father, Jehovah.
Okay, so thoughts on this part by William Turner. All in all, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, it's, if you skipped ahead, he was basically talking about prejudice and how it isn't necessarily just racial prejudice, but it can be different things, weight, height, are you talkative, Are you talkative? Do you not talk enough? Basically, don't judge a book by its cover. He gives an illustration of a geode, and it can just look like a plain old rock, but then you crack it open and you're like, oh wow, there's more to it than that. So that's fine. That's good advice. Don't judge people like that. But the only thing is, this is centralized to other Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, when it comes to worldly people, I mean, they look at them as potential brothers and sisters, so obviously they're willing to talk to them at the door or conversations at a bus stop or whatever. They may judge them a little bit too because they're not to the same standard. They don't have the same beliefs. So it's a little hypocritical when they're talking about apostates because they just label them as evil and bad and stuff. And but the same thing is, don't judge a book by its cover. You might find that they're actually a good person. They just don't agree with the things that Jehovah's Witnesses believe anymore. They're no longer part of it, so they talk about it. So, again, all in all, don't be prejudiced. Don't judge people. But, that should apply to everybody, right?
With prejudice and discrimination so rampant in the world around us, those reminders couldn't be more timely. We've been talking a lot during this broadcast about helping our students become disciples. For those of you who are parents, your most precious students are, of course, your own children. As teachers, we have to help them prepare for the pressures they'll face in school. And those pressures are more intense now than ever, especially when it comes to sexual immorality. In this episode of My Teen Life, we'll hear from two young people who successfully resisted the temptations to have sex. How did they do it?
Well, every day in high school, my classmates would talk about sex. They would just talk about, their boyfriends and girlfriends, what they did with them, over the weekend, what they're going to do. They, of course, knew that I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses and that I wouldn't engage in premarital sex. But that did not stop them from pushing. Guys would invade my personal space. Sometimes they would even try to, grab or touch me. One day, a girl in class, she asked me to touch her inappropriately. Of course, I rejected her, but she even resorted to calling me names. She called me lame, and she said that I must be gay. It seemed to be a game to them to try to break me and try to get me to do things with them. But the fact that I wouldn't give in, they thought it was fun or funny. It got to the point where this became very physical. I had two classmates behind me that were pushing me. One classmate on each side of me, grabbing my arms and pushing me, trying to make me touch her. And I knew that it was time to get out of there. Being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I was already very different in school, but I was also very shy. So at times I wanted to fit in with the crowd so I wouldn't have that attention on me. But I knew that this would displease Jehovah if I, went with the crowd and did what the other kids were doing. Well, I did say a quick silent prayer to Jehovah. I said, Jehovah, just please help. I immediately in my mind thought of Joseph. He was able to free himself from Potiphar's wife, but he was able to get away because of his resolve to please Jehovah. And that's exactly what I knew I needed to do. And I did just that. I ran right out of the classroom. Personal study was very important. And this made Jehovah really real to me. The more real he was to me, the more I didn't want to displease him and hurt him. Having that relationship with him and having that trust in him really helped me get through those situations of wanting to fit in and go with the crowd. Rejecting that girl was not easy, but I did know that it was the right thing to do. Shortly before this incident, my grandmother actually prepared me. She would prepare Watchtower articles for me that talked about how to deal with temptation. Although those talks with her were super duper awkward, if I'm being honest, they really helped me to stay spiritually strong and to resist the temptation. My parents always told me to use far-sighted wisdom. Think about how that action would affect me in the future, affect my relationship with Jehovah, with my friends and my family. That definitely went through my head a lot during that time. All you need to do is trust in Jehovah, because if you trust in him, then everything is going to be okay. The publication that really helped me the most was the Young People Ask book, Volume 2, Chapter 5, Why Stay a Virgin. This book was really a lifesaver for me. Reading about how some of my peers all around the world are dealing with the exact same temptation really gave me a sense of comfort and helped me to feel that I was not alone. Well, I'm really grateful to Jehovah and the organization for the love that they show to us young ones, to help us feel not alone and to help us push through these difficult situations. The Young People Ask book, Volume 2, Chapter 14, How Can I Protect Myself at School? It really encouraged me in school to be firm and to stand my ground to make Jehovah happy. Well, I'm so thankful to Jehovah for recalling scriptures like 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 18, which says, flee from sexual immorality. And I'm happy to say that I was able to do just that. But really what makes me the happiest is knowing that I made Jehovah happy, and there is no greater feeling than that.
Now, in this part with the two young people who are trying to avoid sexual immorality, obviously if that's their moral code, that's appropriate. That, nobody should pressure them into anything that they don't want to do. But I'm curious to know if either of them talk to someone in authority, a teacher, anybody, because really what they're expressing here is sexual harassment. So I'm curious to know if they reported that and if anything was done about it. Now, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. When it comes to something in the congregation, it's a little bit different. You got that 2-person rule, and it's basically he said, she said, or whatever. The standards aren't the same. So, it's good that they stuck to their guns and they did what they felt was right. There's nothing wrong with that. No one should pressure you into doing something you don't want to do. But if you're basically assaulted, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to report it? Are your parents going to report it? Is that going to be is it going to be something that the elders want you to do? I don't know. I'm curious to know.
We know that many of you young ones are just like Cameron and Corey, and we're so proud of you for the courageous stand you take every day. We know it isn't easy, but remember, when you take that stand, you're making Jehovah's heart glad. It takes courage to be different. For many of our brothers and sisters, that courage is being tested in a special way. They're preaching and making disciples in lands where the work is restricted or under ban. How did they muster the courage to keep on preaching despite opposition? That's the theme of this month's new music video.
Okay, so this next part is the music video. They do this in sort of an anime style. I want you to notice something, that through most of this, the character looks like he's really worried about stuff. And there's a section there where shows a bit of a persecution complex. Yeah, so he's supposed to be at peace serving Jehovah, but I can see a lot of worry, and they're really laying thick on this whole persecution thing. And, well, you'll see.
I woke up this morning and dressed for the day. I prayed to Jehovah and went on my way. I was told not to preach, but I cannot bend. God is my ruler rather than man. And like the breeze blowing out in the field, I feel peace right here. I know Jehovah's with me, so why should I fear? I know Jehovah's with me, so why should I fear? As I get back home and think about this day, that man on the bench had so much to say. So I pray that I'll see him again very soon. I know he'd feel better if he had the truth. And like the breeze blowing out in the field, I feel peace right here. I know Jehovah's with me, so why should I fear? I know Jehovah's with me, so why should I fear? Like the fire that's burning deep in my heart, these words I will speak, I'll do my part. I'll spread his name the best that I can, and I will keep going right down to the end. Knowing my brothers are fighting this fight, I'll strengthen my faith, keep it alive. Trust in Jehovah, his praises I'll sing, knowing the new world he soon will bring. As I lay my head down to sleep tonight, I thank Jehovah and turn out the light. What tomorrow may bring, I do not know, but I know that I won't face it alone. And like the breeze blowing out in the field, I feel peace right here. I know Jehovah's with me, so why should I fear? I know Jehovah's with me, so I will not fear.
Like the young brother portrayed in our video, we can gain confidence knowing that when we're in the ministry, Jehovah is with us every step of the way. Our program has shown us the many ways Jehovah has equipped us to make disciples, giving us the best tools and the best training. Being a disciple maker also means being courageous when it comes to taking a stand for our moral principles and preaching even when opposed. We know Jehovah will bless all your hard work as you go on making disciples. One part of the world where the disciple-making work has been thriving for well over 100 years is Australia, our destination in this month's video postcard. Australia is a vast island continent, 4 times larger than the largest island in the world. Situated between the Indian and Pacific Oceans, Australia is a land of dramatic contrast. It's the second driest continent after Antarctica, with vast deserts. Yet some of its mountain ranges receive enough snow to have earned the name the Australian Alps. Off the coast of Queensland in the northeast, you'll find the Great Barrier Reef, which is the largest coral reef system on Earth. Whether you're traveling in Australia's dusty outback or along the coast, you'll likely see many kangaroos. That's not surprising because there are many more kangaroos in Australia than there are people. Kangaroos are native to Australia, as are many other animals, including the koala, wombat, possum, emu, and the unique duck-billed platypus.
Australia also produced Jeffrey Jackson, the two-faced governing body member who, under oath, said that they were not the only avenue used by Jehovah, which is completely opposite to what they teach their people.
Seeds of Truth reached Australia as far back as 1884.
I think it's time to sprint to the finish, so let's wrap this up. So much better, wouldn't you agree? Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. Okay, here comes the end. Bye. So there you have it. There is the October broadcast. Unfortunately posted in November, but what are you going to do? I thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your participation by comments and liking and sharing, that sort of thing. Subscribing if you're able to, I appreciate that as well. That way I can talk to more people. With that, I bid you adieu, and I hope that you have a great evening, and I will, or morning, or whatever. I hope you have a good whatever time of day it is, and I will catch you next time. So for now,